One of the strangest things about modern life is how easy it is to become a version of yourself built for other people. That is the dangerous part. It usually starts as adaptation. You enter a new job and soften parts of your personality. You enter a relationship and hide reactions that could create tension. You notice which version of yourself gets approval faster, which tone sounds more likable, which emotions make people uncomfortable. And little by little, without any dramatic moment, you begin editing yourself in real time. The strange thing is that society often rewards this. The more socially efficient you become, the more accepted you feel. But eventually, something inside starts feeling disconnected. Not broken, not depressed, just unfamiliar. As if the person speaking all day is technically you, but not fully alive anymore. If you have ever felt like you slowly became a version of yourself designed for other people, subscribe to the channel now and turn on notifications, because these conversations are made for people who notice what most others ignore. Leave a like if this topic already feels personal to you. And comment whether you think modern life pushes people to perform more than ever before. Share this video with someone who constantly says they are fine while clearly carrying tension underneath the surface. Sometimes, the hardest thing is not understanding other people. Sometimes, the hardest thing is recognizing how much of ourselves became automatic just to survive socially without conflict, rejection, or emotional friction every single day. One of the biggest misconceptions about identity is the belief that personality is fixed. It is not. Human beings are incredibly adaptive. Your behavior changes depending on the room, the power dynamic, the environment, and the emotional risks involved. The version of you that exists around close friends is not the same version that appears during a work meeting or family gathering. That alone is normal. The problem begins when adaptation becomes permanent. When your reactions stop coming from authenticity and start coming from prediction. You stop asking, "What do I actually feel?" and start asking, "What response will maintain approval?" That shift changes everything, because now your emotions are no longer guiding your behavior. Social strategy is, and after enough repetition, strategy begins feeling natural. You can see this everywhere once you start paying attention. There are people who never disagree publicly because they built their entire identity around appearing emotionally balanced. Others constantly act confident because vulnerability would threaten the image they carefully maintain. Some become endlessly agreeable, not because they are kind, but because conflict terrifies them. And strangely, many of these behaviors receive praise. Society often rewards emotional performance more than emotional honesty. The polished person usually receives trust before the authentic one does. But there is a hidden cost to constantly managing perception. The more energy someone spends controlling how they appear, the harder it becomes to understand who they actually are underneath the performance they perfected over the years. What reveals people most clearly is not what they say during comfortable moments. It is what escapes during pressure. Watch what happens when someone feels ignored, contradicted, embarrassed, or emotionally exposed. That is where the performance starts cracking. A person who appears calm may suddenly become cruel when they lose control of the situation. Someone who presents themselves as generous may become resentful the moment appreciation disappears. This is why emotionally observant people pay attention to patterns instead of speeches. Words are edited, reactions are faster, especially the small ones. The tone shift when somebody speaks to a waiter, the impatience hidden inside forced politeness, the sudden coldness after not getting attention. Tiny moments reveal emotional structure far more accurately than carefully prepared personalities ever will. Modern life also makes performance easier than ever before. Social media trains people to curate themselves constantly. You learn which photos receive validation, which opinions sound intelligent, which emotions generate engagement. Eventually, many people stop experiencing life directly and begin experiencing themselves through imagined observation. They think about how moments appear before they even process how moments feel. And this affects real relationships too. Conversations become filtered. Vulnerability becomes strategic. Even empathy can become performative when people learn the social value of appearing emotionally aware. None of this means humanity became evil. It means humans became highly responsive to systems that reward image management. But if someone spends years optimizing perception, eventually they may wake up emotionally exhausted, without understanding why their life feels strangely disconnected from themselves. There is another uncomfortable truth. Most people avoid discussing. Sometimes the performance is not designed to deceive others. Sometimes it exists to protect self-image. Many people build internal stories about who they are supposed to be: the mature one, the selfless one, the intelligent one, the emotionally evolved one. And once that identity becomes emotionally important, the mind begins defending it automatically. That is why some people react aggressively to criticism that sounds small from the outside. The criticism threatens the character they created internally. Admitting flaws suddenly feels psychologically dangerous. So instead of reflecting honestly, they protect the role. And over time, protecting identity can become more important than developing character. That is why self-awareness requires enormous emotional courage most people never fully develop. The people who seem most grounded are usually not the ones performing perfection. They are the ones comfortable being seen as incomplete. Real authenticity rarely looks impressive in dramatic ways. Often it looks ordinary. Someone admitting they were wrong without turning defensive. Someone remaining respectful even when there is nothing to gain socially. Someone whose behavior stays relatively consistent whether they are speaking to executives, strangers, friends, or service workers. That consistency matters, because genuine character does not depend heavily on audience. Performance does. A performance always adapts to reward structures. Authenticity may still adapt socially, but it does not completely abandon itself in the process. That is the difference. One behavior comes from alignment. The other comes from calculation, hidden beneath emotional polish and social intelligence. A major turning point happens when people stop blindly admiring charisma and start observing emotional coherence instead. Does the person's behavior match their values consistently? Do they disappear emotionally when situations stop benefiting them? Do they only show patience when others are useful? These questions matter far more than confidence, charm, or communication skill. Some of the most emotionally unsafe people become socially successful precisely because they understand image management extremely well. Meanwhile, deeply genuine people may appear awkward, reserved, or imperfect because they are not constantly optimizing perception. This is why emotional maturity requires slowing down judgment. The first impression often captures performance quality, not character quality. Real character usually reveals itself slowly through repeated ordinary situations that most people overlook completely. And eventually, this observation turns inward too. Because once you begin noticing performance in society, you start recognizing it inside yourself. You notice how often you say, "I'm good," automatically. How often you hide exhaustion to avoid becoming emotionally inconvenient. How often you soften opinions to maintain acceptance. At first, this realization can feel uncomfortable, but it can also become freeing, because awareness creates choice. You begin separating adaptation from authenticity. You start asking whether your decisions actually reflect your values or simply protect your image. That question changes relationships, priorities, and emotional habits completely. Not because you suddenly become brutally honest all the time, but because you slowly stop abandoning yourself every time social comfort demands emotional self-erasure in exchange for approval. The goal is not to remove every social mask. Human interaction will always require some level of adjustment. The real goal is staying connected to yourself while adapting to the world around you, to speak without constantly calculating reactions, to listen without performing interest, to care without turning empathy into social currency, and maybe most importantly, to build a life where your internal reality and external behavior are not constantly fighting each other. Because emotional exhaustion often comes less from hard work and more from prolonged self-division, from maintaining versions of yourself that no longer feel emotionally honest. The people who feel most internally stable are usually not the people receiving the most approval. They are the people who no longer depend entirely on approval to recognize their own identity. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next videos. Leave a like. Comment if you have ever gone through something like this. See you in the next video.